Hi, my name is Sharon Bhagwan Rolls from FemLink Pacific, and I've been asked to discuss the economic barriers to women's political participation in the Pacific. And this will be based on FemLink's work in organizing a community media network that supports the communication and information flow between rural women leaders across Fiji, as well as in the Pacific, and also linking to our Women's Human Security First campaign, a campaign that reflects our commitment as an organization to work for gender inclusive conflict prevention, particularly in line with the UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security. So of course that means as an organization we're committed to participation. We're committed to promoting women's leadership, to participate, not just in national governance, but in our context in the Pacific. I think it's more and more important to look at local governance, and in the context of women's economic security, to think about where their leadership is also reflected in terms of trade unions, in terms of organizing as women who work, whether they're workers in the domestic field, whether they're workers in the market, like the Market Vendors Association, or as women leading in trade unions or in the agricultural sector, as rural women are telling us, you know, we're cane farmers too, so we should also have a Women's Sugarcane Growers Council. So looking at those kinds of structures, I think in the context of CSW61 as well, it's about ensuring that there's accountability not just to the Sustainable Development Goals, but to the pre-existing commitments to gender equality and women's rights, in particular CEDAW, and also the Beijing Platform for Action, which gave us some initial gains, but not enough. I'm just going to highlight how through our Women's Human Security First campaign, we first organized in 2014 ahead of the return to parliamentary governance, to the elections. And through the Women's Human Security First campaign, women were able to articulate their human security priorities, which fed into a series of policy reports, which provided a status on women. And these reports, when women are furnished with information, such as this is the Women's Weather Watch report. We also have the Policy for Peace. So when these reports are published, they also become their tools for communication. But more recently, it's also been important for us not just to look at the economic situation of women in a sense of normalcy, but from a conflict prevention perspective, and that in talking about economic resilience or economic security, it also links very much to our Women's Weather Watch work. And of course, Fiji, we experienced the Category 5 storm, TC Winston, in early 2016. And our ongoing Women's Human Security First campaign linked to our Women's Weather Watch work. Between January and June 2016, so this is quite recent, the human security priorities, the top 5 human security priorities for women, really demonstrates the interlinkages. They were health, personal, economic, community, and environmental security in that order. Political participation actually came a little lower down the ranking, and you could say that political participation relies on these 5 priorities. So the issue, of course, with this in mind is that it's imperative not just to think about what do women want in terms of their economic security, but also the fact that they're not in the decision-making spaces where economic systems are determined at the macro level, where they're implemented, particularly at the meso level, and where we need to really focus women's economic security at the micro level, not to ensure that it's not about controlling women just to be in the informal sector, unless of course they want to. But the economic security of women should be defined hand in hand with their political participation and representation, and ultimately in a way that gives them the type of security they want, and to be able to lead in a way that is ensuring that their economic security is actually supporting their political participation and not burdening them further to lead without economic security. Women are already leading in our communities across the Pacific. What they need is the kind of leadership and investment that will support that leadership. And so I think that's really the role of women's civil society and feminist movements, because as we've demonstrated with as FemLink Pacific, from one political crisis to another in our country, we have been able to organize, we have been able to mobilize the resources, the technical, the media, the financial resources to support women to meet as leaders in their communities at the district, divisional, and national level. And that's a really important model, I think, that we need to be campaigning for more. That feminist organizing is actually one that is about supporting women in their communities to articulate what their economic security is. And ultimately, when we ask women to put their human security priorities or to list them, that they have that opportunity to say what they feel is really important. And what we need to do as the women's movement is support them in that communication, in that organizing, and in the documentation to be able to communicate that back into these governance structures, which are supposed to be the ones that we hold accountable in terms of meeting their commitments to women's human rights and gender equality. You can find out more about our Women's Human Security First campaign via our Facebook page or on our website, www.femlinkpacific.org.fj. Naka.